でも何にも入ってない声を夜は今の
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Simply Cyber Firesides. As always, I'm your host, Gerald Auger, and today I'm wicked thrilled to welcome Phillip Wylie, a true veteran of the cybersecurity industry with over 20 years of experience. Now, currently, Phillip's the ex-IoT security evangelist at a company called Phosphorus Cybersecurity, and he has spent more than a decade as an offensive security professional conducting penetration tests across networks, applications, and Wi-Fi systems, as well as red team ops and social engineering engagements. And if you've met him in person in real life, you know he's probably amazing at social engineering because he's wicked charming and very approachable and a really nice guy. Phillip is deeply committed to education and community building as the founder of the Pwn School Project and DEFCON Group 940. And many of you know him as the concept creator and co-author of the best-selling book, The Pentester BluePrint, Starting a Career as an Ethical Hacker, which has become a very good resource for those entering the field. In fact, we actually have that pinned to the chat right now if you just want to go check it out and bookmark it. But you'll see Phillip knows exactly what he's talking about. He's also the host of, lo and behold, the Phillip Wylie Show. Definitely glad that he's the host of that show. That'd be kind of funny if it wasn't. But the Phillip Wylie Show and the award-winning Hacker Factory podcast. Phillip actually won, we have this in common, the prestigious Sans Different Maker Award for his podcast work also 2 years back. He continues to share his knowledge as a conference speaker, as a workshop instructor, and as a mentor through his popular Pwning web apps workshops. Now, today we're going to actually explore Phillip's insights on penetration testing, really kind of macro level stuff around the evolving offensive security landscape, and for people who are looking to get in, how aspiring professionals can build successful cybersecurity careers, both in general and also specifically within the offensive security space. Now, as always, community members, this is a wicked live and super engaging show. So for that to happen, I need you to do your part. So yes, sit there, soak up all the wicked great knowledge that Phillip's going to be dropping on us. But also, you got questions, concerns, want clarity, have some thoughts, fire it into chat, put a Q in there. I'll see it. I'll know it's for him. I'll grab it. We'll throw it on stage. You want to hashtag preach? You want to say what's up? Just throw it in chat and engage. It is a community podcast. That's why we do it. We do it to bring knowledge to you, but also just to sharing the experience with each other. So guys, squad members, please put your Oprah emotes together, a standard tradition for welcoming our guests onto Simply Cyber Firesides. And let's welcome Phillip Wylie to the show. I can't wait to go get him. All right, my man, coming hot from Nova Scotia. What's cracking, buddy?
Not much. Thanks for inviting me to be on the show. It's an honor and good to be back again. And by the way, too, we've mentioned before the show, we were talking about Boston. You were from Boston. If I didn't know, and I heard you say wicked a while ago, I would have figured it out. So.
Oh yeah, so it's funny. You don't really have a thick Texas accent, right? You don't sound like the kind of guy who walks in bow-legged with chaps on or something like that, which is probably derogatory, not even appropriate for everybody from Texas. But I used to have a really strong Boston accent, and if you get enough beers in me, I'll say beers. If you get enough beers in me, it really comes out. Did you ever have like an accent or anything like that from Texas?
Not really, but I try to avoid some of the typical things that people say a lot here. If you were about to do something, people say I'm fixing to, and so I just try to speak as good English as I can.
You're fixing to have a podcast with us right now?
Yeah. So whenever you ever went to get your back when your accent was thicker, if you ever went to the valet to get your car, did they bring you a pair of pants instead?
No,
some khakis.
Khakis, yeah. Oh, my khakis, yeah. Khakis would be good. Like even some like local like Wicked Pissa. I mean, I don't say that, but there's almost like cultural things too that you just don't get anywhere else. I'm sure it's the
Yeah,
same in Texas.
it is.
Like Keno is like bar Keno for some reason is popular, and like these places called town spas, which are not massage places. They're actually like neighborhood bars that like families go to. I don't know, like the fact that Boston has like neighborhood bars that are designed to be family friendly says something about it. But I mean, is there anything kind of like, I guess you travel a ton, Phillip, for
Yeah.
speaking engagements and workshops and stuff like that. Have you encountered any kind of unusual, cultural traditions or norms in your travels that are interesting?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of something that comes to mind. A lot of it's just some of the terminology they use for things like over in the UK, elevators or a lift or something, and some of the, yeah, just some of the differences there. But yeah,
I know. Have you been to South Dakota at all? I mean, obviously
yeah,
you've been to Deadwood.
yeah.
I've been in Deadwood with you, so I don't even know why I asked that question.
So
But they'll put pickles in beer. Have you had that yet?
that sounds interesting. I'm not a beer drinker, but it actually sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't put it in like a good beer, but like PBRs or Busch Lights or something. They'll throw a pickle in there or an onion and just get to work on it. So I don't know if you guys have any like regional customs or traditions, maybe around food or anything. Drop them in chat. I know we got some West Coast people there, Brady McNulty, some international people in chat now. So all right, so enough with the regional stuff. I mentioned your book, Phillip. So Phillip has this book, amazing book called the Pentester BluePrint, right?
Yeah.
And essentially, this is kind of a onboarding experience for people looking to get in. Like, what is this book even about? I'm going to bring it up so we can see it, but
Sure.
I want to ask you about writing a book, but I want to know about this book first.
Yeah. So the inspiration for the book came out of my lecture that I gave at Dallas College. So the first time I gave the lecture was in January 2018 when I started teaching. And the lecture I gave was basically about the role of a pen tester, the type of things you need to know, different certifications and stuff that are helpful. And so it started out as a lecture. Some of the other instructors and professors at the college would ask me to come speak to their class to give that presentation. So by November of 2018, I gave it as a conference talk for the first time at B-Sides DFW. So for those not in the area, it's B-Sides Dallas Fort Worth. So I gave it there for the first time. Really one of the coolest stories about that, because kind of like you, I really like to help people. And it was kind of an interesting moment because in the audience, there were like 3 or 4 people in the audience attending my presentation, attending my talk, my Pentester BluePrint talk, that are now pen testers. And one of them is Juno, that works for Bishop Fox. And Juno's part of Cult of the Dead Cow. So they were in the audience attending my talk, ended up taking my class, went on to be a pen tester, and some other folks in there too as well. So that was really kind of cool. And then, a lot of people from the community taking my class. But part of the advice I give in the book and in the presentation was based on things I gave to people I was mentoring, people that wanted to get into pen testing, because I'd have people come to me all the time. How do I prepare for the OSCP? And I give them good study tips, resources. And then also just some of the different tips and stuff I shared with them. It was part of that book.
So let me ask you, a lot of people, at least in my opinion, get all hot for offensive security, right? Like they see it in the movies, Mr. Robot, and they're like, ooh, I got to get some of that. They just haven't discovered GRC yet, of course. But as far as the market goes, Phillip, does your book get into kind of dealing with the market dynamics? And because in my experience, pen testing is very competitive as far as like getting work and kind of breaking in, as it were, to get your first couple gigs. What are your thoughts around kind of the market of getting in?
Sure. So I didn't cover anything about the market then, but one of the things too, for anyone listening, market wise, it's going to be a lot more tougher, because an example I like to share, when I was at US Bank working as a pen tester there were 13 people on our team. I think there was another team with just specific red teamers that were doing adversary emulation. So there were about 17, 18 total offensive security professionals within the bank out of 1,000 security professionals. And so this is kind of a real world comparison. A lot of companies may be lucky to have 2, 3, or 4 pen testers on their team. So it's just so little jobs and so much demand. Everyone wants to do it. But one of the things I'd advise anyone, if it's something you want to do it. But I would definitely recommend exploring other opportunities. Look at other things, go to conferences, take other trainings, get a good idea and decide what you really want to do. Because I had a former coworker at US Bank that I actually interviewed him on my old podcast, The Hacker Factory. And it was interesting because the title was the accidental pen tester. And why I called it that was because whenever he was originally starting at the bank, he was working in IT, he was taking SANS digital forensics courses. He had been through several of his courses and he finally thought, I'm going to take a pen test course because maybe it'll make me a better digital forensics analyst. So he took that course and fell in love with it. If he hadn't taken a chance and explored other areas, who knows if he'd been happy in that role. And as far as it's probably one of the more difficult roles to learn and get into. So a lot of people will say you have to, because I started out as a sysadmin before I moved into cybersecurity, and this is helpful. And a lot of people say you have to follow a specific path, that you have to do this or that. You don't. As far as sysadmin experience, you just need that level of knowledge. You don't have to necessarily work in it. But back to that, the market being tough for those roles, get out there and explore what you're interested in. If it's something you want to do, go for it. You may not get in right away. And one of the things I wouldn't discourage anyone from is maybe your first security role. If you want to apply for a pen testing role, I've seen people do it. And I've seen people that were kind of your average Joe as far as level of skills and stuff that, wasn't really good at it starting out, but they landed a role. So if that's really something you want to do in anything, take a shot, because you never can't tell when the stars are going to align and you get a chance.
Yeah. And so this is Phillip Wylie, in case you're just joining us late, and we're talking about a bunch of different things, but also his book here, the Pentester BluePrint, which basically lays out an exact career path on getting in. If you're interested in checking it out, we do have it pinned on the YouTube chat. There's a link right there. You can grab it, or you can just ask. There's tons of people in chat who will be happy to provide that link to you. I want to ask you, well, one thing I want to say that Phillip pointed out is one cool thing about cybersecurity, in my opinion, is that even if you are a great like all of the roles kind of can matrix together. So like some of the best detection engineers on the blue side are former pen testers, and people who do GRC can appreciate and understand the macro level picture. You can be a better, SOC analyst if you understood kind of some of the levers that are being pulled on the GRC space. So it all maps out. Phillip, one thing that I've heard of, and I'd love your thoughts on this, the reality of it and whatnot, is that on the private sector side, so not DoD or whatever, which is what we're talking about, a lot of times you're kind of thrown into things. You're not ready to go. You're not trained up on how to do AWS pen testing like a boss when you get your AWS pen testing work, right? Like you kind of got to learn on the job. How true is that? And can you speak to how people should be handling imposter syndrome, or if you've ever had to deal with that on the pen testing side?
Sure. One example I like to share, because one of the consulting roles I had, one of the best ones of my career, they wanted me to do a Wi-Fi pen test. And I had never done a Wi-Fi pen test before. I was interested in doing it, but they came up and said, here, they paid for the OffSec Wi-Fi pen testing course. So I went through that and performed the pen test. And there were a lot of opportunities I got like that. Like I did a secure software development lifecycle review of this company, had never done it before, and kind of told them, yeah, I'm happy to do it. We got plenty of opportunities there that throw you into it. But one of the things I just kind of share with anyone is, if you're getting put into something maybe you don't have experience, let your employer, whoever you're working with, let them know you don't have experience in that area, that if you can get some coaching or training or do some research, you'd be glad to do it. But just let them know that up front. So that way if it doesn't go well, then no one can really come back and blame you. But that's what I did, is I just let them know I didn't have experience in these areas, and they got me training, or either told me, here's some really good resources from Microsoft on software development life cycles, some other resources, and I did it. So give it a shot. It doesn't hurt you to do it. So don't let imposter syndrome hold you back, because if you really let imposter syndrome get the best of you, it's going to just really put a damper on your career. Because I mean, there's things I got to do that, like the secure software development lifecycle. I mean, this is GRC type mindset would be perfect at that. But this is yeah. So fortunately, I had a manager or practice lead that gave me a chance of doing that stuff. So yeah, if you get the chance, do it and make sure you're preparing for it and study for it. I mean, I've even had times where I had to prepare for a video interview at InfoSecurity conference in InfoSec Europe a couple years ago. And when I went in there, it's like I didn't know that much about cyber risk quantification. I was going to be interviewed. The main focus of this conversation was going to be pen testing. And that's what it was to start out with. And they came out like the day before and said, hey, we're going to talk about cyber risk quantification too. Be ready to speak on it. So I took the time to research and study up on it. And that's the thing you can do any kind of type of task you got coming up, do some research and plan on it. But like I said, make sure you let whoever know that's assigning that task, let them know your level of experience, that you'd be good doing it if they're okay with you researching and maybe even getting some help from someone else.
I love it. Just so everybody's picking up what he's putting down, Phillip's throwing some GRC Mafia love up in here, talking about risk quantification. Phillip, I like your style. We'll have to get you one of these shirts, dude, ASAP. Questions coming in from Brady McNulty. Good to see Brady in the chat. Hey, Brady, good to see you, buddy, as always. He said, is PNPT and 2 years of experience enough to try to get a role in pen testing, or is it OSCP and more experience necessary?
So yeah, I think a PNPT and 2 years of generic experience would be good. It's all going to depend on the company, because my first break into pen testing, I was getting laid off from a company where I was working at AppSec, and I wanted to be a pen tester because in my AppSec role, I was managing our third-party pen tests. We had consultants doing our pen tests. That's what got me interested in it. Didn't know how to hack, was interested in it, and I saw when I knew I had 90 days notice I was being laid off. So I applied for a consulting role at Verizon, and I got the job. And I didn't have any certifications outside of CISSP and the NSA IAM certification, but I didn't have any direct certifications. So yeah, sometimes that's enough. Sometimes, even less experience. If you're working on hack the box a lot and you're really doing really well there, you got some information, show some stats to show people, then yeah, that's enough. I mean, don't hold yourself back. Go for it. Worst thing they can do is tell you no. And interviews are always a good learning process. You take things away from those interviews and prepare for the next interview.
There you go, Brady. Nails. I love it. I like what PNPT is doing. Not only did just as a quick thing, I'm not a pen tester. I'm terrible at pen testing. So but I'm a huge fan of cybersecurity and I love our industry. I like what PNPT did because I feel PNPT drove OSCP to make their cert better with bringing Active Directory into it, which was, it's cool. It's like you want a rising tide to lift all boats, not just crush one boat. So one of the things that you do, whether it's writing this book or it's running workshops and stuff, is you love helping people, Phillip. It does take a lot of effort. It does take a lot of energy, and it is an effort of passion to serve. So I've been curious, what is it that motivates you?
I don't know, just it feels good to help other people. And one of the things too, whenever I started teaching in 2018, my wife is a big inspiration because my wife used to teach an ESL program. For those who not familiar, that's English as a second language. Living in Texas, being a border state, we had a lot of immigrants coming through, and just seeing what she was doing, helping the students. She even went above and beyond, went out and learned Spanish because she hardly knew a few words, wanted to learn Spanish, but so she really immersed herself into it, learned Spanish so she could help her students out more. But it was even beyond that was really cool because some of her students weren't here legally; they are undocumented. And there was a case one time where this one student, his cousin and sister had come across the border, and her cousin, the heat coming through South Texas is super hot. It was just, and then all the distance they had to walk, and just really tore her feet up. They were blistered bad. She probably really needed to go to a hospital, but they were scared being undocumented. So they trusted my wife to come over and provide, some medical advice, and she brought some things to help with the wounds and stuff. And just seeing that, I was thinking my own legacy, because before that, I've always been a goal-oriented person, and numbers always drove me and stuff. And then I just kind of got to 2018, the opportunity to teach come up. I enjoyed helping other people and mentoring. And I kind of thought, the world needs more teachers, mentors, and coaches. And that was an area that I really felt like I excelled in more, because I was helped people a lot. And before I even got into the teaching. And so that just kind of helped me change my focus. And so most of the stuff I do is around that now. So that's really what drove that. And just the cool thing about it is, was never looking for any reward in return, but it's like karma is an amazing thing, because you do this stuff for people, you don't even think about it, but you get monetary rewards. Some of the jobs and stuff I get is a direct reflection of the things I've done to build my brand. And it's just, I don't know, nothing I was looking for, but it has been a good side effect.
Yeah, I always refer to it as like throwing seeds into a field and watering them all, and not trying to be like, I'm just going to water this one, potential prize winning rose and ignore all the other ones. It's just, you water them all, and you don't have expectations. You're just doing right, and good happens. And yeah, you're definitely a product of that.
And one of the things too, when I do I don't like traditional mentoring, because I used to mentor through this ACP program. They were helping veterans get into the commercial world, get out into society and get jobs outside the military and get into the corporate world. And it was good, but this structured meeting once a month, every 2 weeks, having to go through these checklists, do all this stuff, just didn't work for me. For me, the way I like to do it is, someone wants mentoring, we connect, we'll have a call. First time it's going to be like maybe an hour, getting their goals, see what they've done so far, give some recommendations, and then let them go on, follow those recommendations, and just kind of follow up, let me know how they're doing. And we can follow up through email, whatever messaging apps, or LinkedIn. And if they need a call, we go back to do that. But I like doing that because I can help more people that way.
So, as if Phillip wasn't busy enough, traveling all over the place and speaking at conferences, writing books, wrestling bears, the guy's all over the place, but he's also a podcaster. Now, he did win the very prestigious, very, very, very hard to achieve Sans Difference Maker of the Year Award, Podcast of the Year in 2023. I emphasize that because we won it in 24. Yeah. But
I was lucky that you weren't in the running that year.
Oh my goodness, you're too kind. But he was doing Hacker Factory, which is currently in hiatus. But you've been doing the Phillip Wylie Show, which is a new program for you. What are you doing with here? Because I bet you anything it has something to do with helping people. What's the Phillip Wylie Show, man?
Yeah, it fits into kind of my sole purpose is to help others. But the thing is, this is a podcast that's useful to someone that's trying to break in, absolute beginner, to people that are experienced. And one of the things I do, and it was kind of influenced by teaching at the college, is each semester I would share stories with my students, and they enjoyed my stories, my pentesting stories, and they said, could you bring in some of your friends from the community to share their stories? And I would bring in people to talk to the class, and they enjoyed it. So that kind of really inspired me with the podcasting to make sure I have people, when they're on, to have them share their hacker origin story, whether they come from a red team or a blue team background, because those origin stories are very important. So it could be a complex topic that maybe that someone may not get, but at least that little piece they'll get there, because what happens is some people resonate differently with different guests. So I had a friend of mine that has been on both my podcasts, that we were in AutoCAD together, CAD drafters, and periodically someone comes and say, hey, I'm a CAD drafter, I want to go into security, and they're already doing that. So people resonate with those different paths, and it encourages people. And so at Hack SpaceCon in 2022, it was 2022, actually 2023. So I had this couple show up there, and they showed up because I was teaching a workshop. And so the husband, he was a construction engineer going to school for cybersecurity. And when he stepped away, his wife says, thanks for doing the podcast, because your podcast encourages my husband when I can't. and he's like a husband, father of 2 kids, and just has all that, plus going to school too. So when you hear stories like that, that's what keeps me going. And those origin stories are motivators to folks. And so it's a lot of cases, there'll be some really good career advice, like your upcoming episode that should be coming out fairly soon. And then also Fleetus that's on here. He did an episode, and Fleetus had a lot of great advice. A lot of times we get into some really heavy, good conversations around career advice. And sometimes it's more technical about other areas and stuff, but that's pretty much the focus of it.
There's a question in chat. It's kind of specific, but I love to throw it at you. Thanks, GBO Onichin. You know anything about pen testing in Canada?
I think the market's pretty good here, because I actually got a friend up here that does pen testing. So I think it's as good as like any other place. It's just.
And Philip's in Nova Scotia at this moment. So
Yeah.
just so everybody knows. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's probably, it's a good market. I don't know how it compares to US, but yeah, it's lucrative here. There's roles. I've known several people. If anyone's heard of Gabrielle B on LinkedIn, she's won like Woman Hacker of the Year and all this stuff, and does teaching and is a pen tester, and started out like in marketing. She's in Canada, and she does pen testing.
Thank you. And speaking about inspiring people and having impact, we got a pseudo mimic in chat, just letting you know he's been watching you for 2.5 years. He's been a pen tester for 2 years, and you were a fantastic stepping stone in his career. So there you go. Phillip Wylie having impact right there. Thanks for sharing your story, pseudo mimic.
And the thing I want to tell anyone that's listening is, and this not directed at me, but if there's anyone ever inspires you and stuff, you see them at conferences, you get a chance, let them know, because there's days when you're really stressed out and maybe you're thinking, man, do I need to just kind of take a break for this stuff? This is a lot of work, and I'm not, don't get paid for it. And it's really the helping people and the benefit of what it does to them is the big deal. But there's days that someone comes along and you just think you're having imposter syndrome. This used to happen to me in class a lot. And then presenting at conferences, I just think, man, that was kind of, I hope someone got something out of that. I thought it was kind of lousy, and then someone comes up and tells you that's good. And so that kind of encourages us to continue on.
Yeah, 100%. It's happened to me a couple of times, and definitely gets my motor running. In fact, I was actually telling Philip right before we came on, I'm like, just like the battery's a little low right now. I'm going to do it. But now, like, I got to tell you, Philip, I'm like green across the board right now personally. So this is definitely good. So, all right. So, okay, we've been talking about mentoring and his podcast and his book, all these things that Philip creates, but he is a world-class pen tester, right? And I know he's not going to say that, but he's very good at his job. Okay, Philip, I want to know personally, and I'd love for chat to glean this from you. You've spent over a decade in offensive security, so you've been around, you've seen a thing or two because you've done a thing or two, right? How have you seen penetration testing evolve? Like, what emerging attack vectors or techniques should security teams be paying more attention to right now, as you're kind of seeing trends, right? Like how things were and where they're going. And we always learn from history and starting to see trends and stuff. So what can you share with us about that?
Sure. Like a lot of things people have to depend more on is like living off the land binaries, attacks like that. There is a recent one, because the company I work for now has XIoT security platform or solution, and Akira ransomware group recently hacked a camera because they could, the EDR, the endpoint detection systems were detecting their attempts. So they end up installing it on a Linux-based camera to get their foothold. So you have to get more creative. And actually, Black Hills had a podcast several years ago. It's been probably about 3 years ago, and they were talking about how it's getting more difficult to get in on hosts directly. Sometimes you're having to get in through other devices. So living off the land binaries, being creative that way.
This is just a couple of weeks ago, guys. March 6th, covered it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's some of the things that are, and then another thing as far as things go is just the way it's evolved has been the technology. Because when I got into it, it wasn't such a cloud dominated world, because I started pen testing in 2012, and now there's so much cloud related stuff. One of the big tips I would tell anyone is keep up with technology, keep up with the most up-to-date kind of stuff. But what happens is people have been doing this for a while, maybe didn't train on cloud and they're behind. So if you're so like if you were to go into, learn how to do AI LLM bug bounties, learn some AI hacking, then you're going to have a skill that a lot of experienced pen testers don't have. So, kind of keeping up with the latest technologies. And the thing is, there may not be a hacking class at the time, but once you build those pen testing and hacking foundations, you can kind of start figuring out how to hack those different types of platforms on your own. But biggest tip I can say is continue to learn the new technology that comes out. Don't let yourself get behind.
How are you using AI for your workflows and for your professional development?
So mainly for stuff for like writing, mainly like writing and stuff. It's just interesting. I use it a lot for my podcast, but then I also found some other tools that are AI enabled, like Decipher, that uses it. So I'm a big fan of it, trying to learn a little bit more about it. Want to get beyond just the generative AI. But yeah, so I think it's really something anyone that's in security needs to learn it, because it kind of helps you with the one thing I have to say about it is if you're writing and stuff, you need to know something about the content, or you need to double check what you've written, because sometimes it hallucinates and comes up with stuff that's not factual. So you need to make sure that that is correct when you go through it. But it just helps you a ton. I mean, it may just give you a basic outline for a conference talk or a college paper or something you're wanting to write, or blog post, give you a good outline, and you can kind of flush it out from there and give you ideas. And then just sometimes just rewriting stuff, because a lot of cases with conferences, there's cases that they want a shorter bio than my average bio. So I have to go in and to whatever software I'm using, or Chat GPT, to get it to write a shorter version or whatever.
I just want to quickly say, do you see where it says Pentester right under you? It says Phillip Wylie Pentester. I'm getting grief. I
Okay.
had written that the first time, and then I copy and pasted it in here. And just so you know, like I wasn't going to call it out because the first time, but now that I've done it twice, I just want to let everybody know, if you're interested, Phillip is not just a pen tester, but he's also a penster. So you can definitely learn from him on all of that. I'm making sure that I spelt it right now. Pentester, is this correct? Pen tester? Yes. Okay. Very good. So thank you for being a penster and a pen tester of Phillip Wylie. So we are talking with Phillip Wylie. You can see all his many titles down below in the lower third there. Just a very, very, very wonderful cybersecurity community member and practitioner, talking all about helping. But one of the things that Phillip currently does is he works at a company called Phosphorus as an ex-IoT security evangelist. And I want to unpack ex-IoT in a minute, but as an evangelist and doing what you're doing with Phosphorus, like, what kind of concerns, and don't name any clients, please, or anything like that, but like, what kind of security concerns are you seeing in the IoT space? Like, what should chat be thinking about for their own IoT devices in their own network? Because a lot of times they're not Windows machines, so they kind of fall out of the main IT, cattle that you're herding all the time.
Yeah, one of the things you have to be careful with is like firmware updates, but some of the basic hygiene people aren't doing, like you would normally see like in an IT environment. You need to make sure that you're changing the default credentials on devices, periodically changing those out, because you may have a really secure password, but something happens that there could be someone discovers a password like that during one of these password dumps. And threat actors, just like pen testers, are using these dictionaries, password dictionaries, to try to gain access to these systems. So you need to be routinely changing those as well. And basically just, making sure you're configuring your devices to remove any unnecessary services. So if you got FTP is not a secure service, so you want to disable FTP. If you need to transfer files, because see, a lot of the cameras used to use FTP to actually take still shots, like JPEGs or GIF files, and then copy those in a steady stream. So you'll make sure you're using something like SFTP, using a secure protocol instead. So a lot of your basic hygiene stuff towards the OT side, the ICS, the industrial controls. But when it gets into the IoT side, this you have a little more leverage with, because some of those systems are easier to upgrade firmware in, and they're not critical. They're not going to kill production or injure someone if you updated or something. So with the ICS world, OT world, you have to kind of be careful because you can impact production.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually cause injury to someone that's dealing with that equipment.
So basic cyber hygiene, it goes a long way for the IoT devices, which is such a low hanging fruit too. By the way, can we just talk like just for a second? Because if we were at a bar right now, I would tell you this. Like, the market is trying to push this like shortened phrase of sci-hi for cyber hygiene, and I refuse. I absolutely refuse to
Yeah.
adopt sci-hi. Do you have a position on sci-hi, Philip?
That's the first time I've heard it, but it's kind of silly.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so we're Philip squarely in our camp, people. So we can continue. We can continue the interview. So XIoT though, like, is this some kind of new way of looking at IoT that Phosphorus is trying to introduce to market, or is this something that I'm just not aware of because I'm not really working in that space? The X specifically, right?
So the X, I'm not sure if that was something specific, because this is my second week there. I'm not sure if this is something specific that Phosphorus came up with, but what it stands for is extended IoT. So this encompasses OT, ICS, under the ICS SCADA can be part of that. And then you got IoT, and then you got medical devices that are connected devices. And so it just encompasses medical, IoT, and OT. So it encompasses all those in one realm.
Okay, so it's an equal opportunity IoT device.
Yeah.
I love it. So, hey, another kind of like, I guess, assumption, I suppose is the right word I make, is that there's like tons of ICS jobs in Texas just because you guys have like energy and oil and you have your own grid and all this other stuff. And everything's bigger in Texas. So like you've got bigger energy plants and stuff. Is that a kind of a myth or a misassumption that I have? Not a misassumption. That's a fake word, but is that assumption I have because I just don't go to Texas, or is it somewhat rooted in reality?
Well, there is a lot of oil facilities there, a lot of oil refineries and stuff. So even oil is brought into Texas to process. So like Houston is a big oil town. So there's a lot going on there. So there is a lot from that perspective. Even like Oklahoma has a lot of refineries and stuff around the oil too. So there's a lot of OT, ICS related stuff there.
Okay, follow-up question, Philip. So, when I think of work as a practitioner, right, I'm usually thinking like corporate environments, Active Directory, maybe like at this point hybrid, so Azure AD and Entra, right? And I'm thinking about how to secure those assets and stuff. And IoT is always like, I don't want to call it fringe. It introduces a lot of attack surface and risk because, it's usually lightweight operating systems and stuff they can't do much with. And it'll get put on its own VLAN as like, this is somewhat radioactive. Don't go over there. Is IoT big enough now where you could almost specialize, like the way you can specialize on web applications or specialize on social engineering? Is IoT getting big enough where that's an area where you could kind of be like a SME on?
Yes, yeah. And I would say, and then that could also encompass the OT and ICS stuff too. But one of the big threat vectors and one of the things we always look for on Pentest is looking for default creds on webcams. So just like that Acura hack, I mean, stuff like that's easier when people are using default creds. Usually they're some lightweight Linux running like BusyBox web server. Mm-hmm. So under the hood, it's interesting how easy some of that stuff can be to hack, because in Dallas, there's a group called O-Day All Day, and they meet on,
I like that.
Yeah, each quarter of the year, and it's on a Saturday, and they meet. It is O-Day All Day because they meet like in the morning and go till night. And a lot of times they've gotten like connected devices. They've got like webcams, and they've got different Wi-Fi routers or different home routers and things, and just play around hacking. And they found all sorts of stuff. These connected devices are getting into doors and stuff, because we actually had someone from our local community, a couple guys that when Hacks for Pancakes moved into this house, the door lock that was on their house was connected, And a couple guys from our community that was part of O Day All Day went out, bought that device, and was able to figure out how to hack it.
Nice.
And
That's
so,
a really cool. That is a really cool project. A little scary for Leslie, but
yeah, but they were able to come back and say, "Hey, this is not safe. You want to, go with something else." So
Yeah. It's so funny how hot IoT has become. It makes me think, again, like I love cybersecurity. Like I love it. And I've been in it for a long time, as long as you. And, watching these trends, like years ago, like I would say maybe 2015, 2016, like Bluetooth hacking was like so hot. Do you remember, like there'd be like 9 talks at Black Hat on,
Yeah.
there was like the adult, pleasure device that got hacked. That was kind of like the mainstream one, but tons of door locks, tons of all these things. And now IoT devices are getting reversed all over the place. It's really interesting to see kind of the more things change, the more they stay the same.
So yeah, those adult devices, if they're attacked, you could perform a denial of pleasure attack.
I love it. Oh my God, that's so good. So of course my mouse just died. I've been having terrible issues, dude. I put a brand new battery in this thing. By the way, where do you stand on trackballs? So like I've had this trackball, like I've bought the same one multiple times. I've probably been using this since I was like 17. Love this style. Where do you stand? Are you a trackball guy? Are you a mouse guy? Big mouse, small mouse?
Mouse guy. I actually got the Logitech MX.
Oh, yeah.
That I like pretty well. Back in my AutoCAD days, I used to use the trackball mice and trackballs.
Are you talking about this boy right here? This guy?
Yep, that's the one I got.
Oh yeah, this thing. This is I obviously I have this. I just I don't have enough real estate going on. I have poor real estate management on my workspace. But yeah, no, this thing, you can configure the crap out of this thing. There's like 9 buttons on it.
Yeah, I like those things. Before that, I was a fan of the Mac mouse. That's what was kind of my go-to.
Oh, the Magic Mouse.
And then when I worked at I&E for a while, that was what they set me up with, was the Logitech MX mouse. And so I got Logitech MX mouse and keyboard, although I'm probably gonna go to a Mac keyboard because I like the touch. Where you can just touch to log in instead of having to type in your password all the time. So I'm thinking about going to that.
Ain't nobody got time for typing in passwords. Yeah. I used the Magic Mouse for a while, but I ended up getting, I don't know if anybody in chat's ever done this, but like I ended up getting almost like, not carpal tunnel, but like I was getting like hand pains from like how you're talking about the Magic Mouse, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I was using it incorrectly. I'm getting trashed on in mod chat by the way right now that I'm a boomer because I use trackballs like I'm old. Come on now. People in chat, let me know if you're using trackballs. We got 50 people in here. Cheddar Bob knows what's up with a trackball. So, yeah. Anyways, I just, sorry, my mouse died and it derailed everything. So, all right. So guys, if it wasn't obvious to you already, I did link Phillip's.
So you heard it here first. Dead mouse is at Gerald's.
Yeah, dead mouse is in Charleston. Get it. But the Phillip's in here. I dropped his LinkedIn in chat so you guys can connect with him. I'm gonna pivot for just a quick second, but I don't want anyone to miss connecting with him. He's just a really great guy. Like everything coming out of Phillip is aces. Anyone who knows him, they'll tell you the same thing. You're getting it direct from the source right here. But one of the things that you may not know, if you missed my intro, is that Phillip's built significant community initiatives as well, like the Pwn School Project and DEFCON Group 940. Phillip, I tell people all the time to either be part of a group or even kind of build splinter groups within a group and kind of, deliver. Share with us your philosophy on building technical communities like the DEFCON 940 or these type of communities you've built.
And just for the record there, because not all my bio stuff everywhere has been updated, but I stepped down from the DEFCON group last fall, probably about November.
Okay.
It just got, when I started, because I started the Pwn School Project, and I was hosting 2 meetings a month, one in Dallas and one in Denton. And that was going nuts at that time. I ended up hosting like a 3rd meeting one time in Hurst, Texas. So 3 meetings in 1 month. And then one time I drove out to East Texas with 2.5-hour drive to teach a workshop there. So when I first started that group, I was teaching and I had my day job, so I had a lot more free time. So with the conference speaking and the podcast and all that stuff, I've gotten so busy, it got hard to run. And so Sheldon and Rick that were helping me run that, they're in good hands. They were there when I first started out the Denton group. So I rebranded as a DEFCON group because more brand awareness. And also, if I ever got ready to step down, I would feel better about stepping down from a DEFCON group because that's not my personal brand. And if something happened, it would come back on me, because the DEFCON groups are not going to let you get away. They're going to take action to shut you down if you're doing improper stuff. So I can't hand it over to them. But some of the stuff you think about can be as small or as big as you want it to be. So even like a study group, if you want to think of the smallest form, just starting a study group. And that was kind of one of my first experiences, because when I was going through the OSCP, I met 3 other folks online on like a certification message board. One of those guys I know a lot of people may know of is Justin Hutchins, which is a Pentester and AI expert, and also a fellow podcaster. So Justin, or Hutch, that's how I met him, and we've been friends for like 13 years. So starting study groups, because some people are a little more introverted and don't like a big crowd. So maybe you start something, small like that, and it could be virtual. It could be on a Discord server, because some of my community efforts even came up before pen testing. Because actually, back in my powerlifting days, I built a website and a forums, a message board for the gym, the powerlifting team I was part of, and then I started a powerlifting blog and message board. So been fooling around with community a lot, but say once it got into the security realm, I got to where I do a lot more in-person stuff than I was doing before. A lot of it was kind of virtual stuff.
So you mentioned introverts. I got that question yesterday on the daily threat brief, jaw-jacking segment about like, oh, I'm an introvert. Like how, you say networking's super valuable, but I'm introverted. How do I get started with this? And, I answered that way. But, what are your thoughts on, how starting a community or being part of a community, how it can support inclusion in cybersecurity specifically?
Yeah, it does. One of the things too I have to say is when you find your tribe, it's not that difficult to open up and talk to people. And, because this is one of the things some people may think of that hadn't got into security yet. You're maybe going through a study, and maybe you're a gamer and you're into gaming, and you go to some gaming conventions and see people, you have a good time, and no one would ever think you're a shy, reserved person. Once you get in your crowd, your group, you find your tribe, it's different. And so it's like, I was always super shy. So if you put me in a room with people, and actually I've gotten better over the years. I would say at one time, you put me in a room with people that are, a bunch of business people, lawyers or something, I would just sit there and be really quiet because I'd have nothing to contribute, wouldn't talk. But it's just from going to these different security conferences and stuff and speaking, I loosened up and was able to do that more. So just kind of get out there and, find places you feel comfortable in. And a lot of times, just if you go to something like WowW's Hacking Fest, there's a lot of hands-on stuff. It's a little smaller there. If you go to DEFCON, which is a really big conference, maybe overwhelming for some, but there's a lot of little areas. If you're into wireless hacking, you can go hang out in the Wallace Sheep Village and do things there. So just kind of get out there and give it a chance, because I was super shy and I was an introverted, and I kind of got over that.
Yeah, it's 100%. It's, find your tribe. And another thing I like to tell people, like, obviously, if you're hearing my voice, I think Simply Cyber Community's great, right? But I'm clearly biased. But, if you do find someone or some group of people and they're not good, you don't have to settle for that. Okay. You don't have to accept toxicity. I was talking to somebody back in the day, like when we were coming up, like us olds, coming to you live from the nursing home, per Tyler Ramsby. But when we were coming up, especially on the offensive side, there wasn't Try Hack Me or Hack the Box or any of these things. Like you had to even hack the box. You used to have to hack. Do you remember this? You used to have to hack it to get in a user account on the friggin' platform.
Yep.
So it was almost like it was very exclusive, and there was a lot of like us and them and toxicity, and it's not that way anymore, but there's still some holdovers. So
there is,
so you don't have to deal with that.
And that's one of the things I like, that things are starting to evolve, and it's good to see people, because the thing I think sometimes is harder to get people to open their minds and be more inclusive and accepting is folks that have been around as long as we have, because some of them, you came up in the industry when it wasn't that way. You had people that work environments where that Unix administrator wasn't going to tell you anything because they'd lose their job security. And so I like that it's opening up and becoming more inclusive. Some of the conference used to not be that way, but it is. And you mentioned that because, the current state of the political environment in the U.S., a lot of the folks in certain demographics don't feel comfortable. But I've been at conferences this year, and it's so nice to see some of those at risk or demographics that aren't comfortable with the current state of the political environment in the U.S. to be able to go in those places, be accepted, and feel safe. So that's one of the things I do like about our community. Even though there's some people pushing against DEI within our community, they're supporting it. So it's a good place for anyone to go and anyone to be supported.
Phillip's mentioned a lot of great conferences already in this conversation, and he goes to many of them. He's also like really tall, so it's very easy to
Not really.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You kind of have like an imposing presence. I mean, I see you when you're coming.
Yeah.
But anyways, like I think Phillip's easy to identify. So you can see him. But like, let's talk about your 2020. I mean, we're like right in the throes of conference season. I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like conference season starts basically with RSA, almost like which one's first, Memorial Day or Labor Day? I always get those confused.
Memorial Day.
Yeah, so it's like Memorial Day, like kicks it off, RSA,
Yeah.
and then it goes, and then like, Black Hat, and then for me, it's like Deadwood, and then, my locals, and then around like Thanksgiving, it kind of tails off, and then it goes dormant for a while. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What do you have on your conference schedule? Like, where are you going? What are you doing? What are you excited about?
So yeah, it's already started off pretty busy so far. So last week I spoke at CypherCon. And then I spoke at Innotech Austin the week before that. I've got actually going to RSA, not speaking there, but going to RSA and B-Sides San Francisco. I'm speaking at B-Sides Transylvania in Romania coming up next month.
Oh, nice.
And then after that, going to Hack SpaceCon again. Hack SpaceCon's a lot of fun. I haven't been to Hack RedCon yet, but the same people that organize that. So those are pretty good. So one of the things I'm amazed with is the Midwest, and I don't know if Deadwood's included with that, but the northern and central part of the U.S. has a lot of great conferences, because GERCON I went to last year was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I met the founder of CypherCon there and got invited to speak at CypherCon. So there's a lot of good conferences there. I've been to ThoughtCon yet, but I hear a lot of good things about ThoughtCon.
Is that Chicago?
Yes.
ThoughtCon? Yeah.
And then they got like Blue Team Con that takes place in Chicago too. That's supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah. I've heard, and I know we've got some Michigan people in chat, hashtag 8 Mile, hashtag Detroit. I've heard B-Sides Grand Rapids is actually quite good. Kind of like B-Sides Augusta. Like it's a bigger one that has a lot of like, maturity to it. So yeah, all of those. What do you have, like rotating talks? Or are you kind of focusing on one area right now?
I usually I try to come out with a new talk each year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I come out with something new each year and I rotate through that. There's times I'll go back and do the other older talks too. I've been at conferences too, because at Texas Cyber Summit, when it was running, there was one year I taught 2-hour workshops plus gave my presentation 3 times, because they put my presentation, the Pentester BluePrint talk, in a small room. I think it might have hold like 50 or something. And you're supposed to register. So the Monday before I went there, I said, hey, your session filled up. Can you do another one? So I said, sure. And so on that second session, some people that registered for that session didn't get in because other people walked in. No one was really tracking that. And so they said, well, can you give it a third time? So this time they gave it in a ballroom. So I spoke 3 times and gave 2-hour workshops. I was beat after that. And then one time at Texas Cyber Summit, one day, the last day of the conference, I spoke on that day and there were 2 no-shows. So I spoke 3 times there. So, but yeah, I try to come out with a new talk each year. And I try to find things related to that are helpful to my employer. So I plan on doing some stuff around IoT and OT.
There you go, IoT, OT. And also he's looking for Sarah Connor, because there's no way that this guy's... human, the amount of work you're doing. Hey, AV's got a question. What do you think about cyber pros building a personal brand without compromising on their tech depth?
Yeah, it's going to be whatever you're putting out there. I mean, it's just, you just have to be true to yourself and be honest about it. And then as far as compromising your tech depth, make sure, if you're getting sponsored, don't let that affect what you're saying and doing. Just, keep your true voice.
Okay, so here's a fun question, because you're uniquely positioned to answer it. You've written a book, you run a podcast, you've done YouTube or video content, you've done LinkedIn stuff, you spoke. As far as like impact and not return on investment, but like Phillip Wylie's building a personal brand, or AB's building a personal brand, and you can choose any of these, but they don't all have the same impact, right? So what in your experience, if you were talking to your son and he's like, oh, I'm going to be the next big thing. You're like, all right, you probably should start with this. Like, assume the technical skills are done, right? So not about developing skills, but like bringing them to, so the market can understand who you are. What do you think has the impact from your perspective?
From what I see, this probably has like some of the biggest bang is the content creation, like YouTube, TikTok. Those seem like really good ways to, but from what I see, it's a ton of work because I don't even have that many subscribers. Most of what I've used to build my brand has been public speaking. So I speak at it's been over 100 something times. I've spoken at conferences now since 2015. In 2015, I'd spoke once. So they really took off in 2018. So mine's been public speaking. So you have to find your best communication platform. So it may be writing for you. If you don't want to be on camera, you can do a faceless YouTube channel. You could do sharing your screen, slides, and walkthroughs and stuff. So find the area of content creation that works best for you and kind of start out there. And I really recommend public speaking. As far as getting that brand out there, getting out in person, the virtual is good. But one of the things I've found too is that's helped my brand a lot more. I don't think my brand would be as strong as it is if it wasn't for me being out there in person. So getting to run into people in person. And one of the interesting kind of experiences I had last year at DEFCON, I like to share back to, people coming up, meeting you that consume your content. I ran into someone listening to my podcast at DEFCON. So Jason Haddix, myself, and another friend were going to have dinner. It was Saturday night at DEFCON. So I was going home on Sunday. So I went up to my room and the battery on the door was out and I couldn't get into my room. So I sat there and kept calling the front desk from one of the lobby phones up there. It took an hour for them to finally change the battery in my door so I get into it. By this time, they'd already had dinner and gone on to something else. So I missed out on opportunity. So I went up to like the little food court area, was having some pizza, and then someone says, Phillip Wylie. And he did that, just kind of yelled it out to make sure it's me, because if it wasn't, then no big deal, instead of just coming up. And then he came over and we talked for like 2 hours, and it was a really great experience. So it turned a bad situation into a good situation. And, this is one of these things, if it wasn't for my brand and the things I do, my night would have been lost after that, because I would have went up there and ate dinner by myself, went to my room. But instead it turned into a situation that was probably better than what I planned on.
Yeah, just say yes. That's cool. That is, and those kind of like unexpected organic events, you can't manufacture them. You know what I mean? They just you got to kind of be ready for it. Don't they? I mean, that old phrase like luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So you just got to be ready for those kind of opportunities. I mean, something as simple as a nice dinner or whatever. But I love it, and I do want to point out really quickly. This, like, it's organic to say this. So Simply CyberCon, our conference that we host, it's in November, but we deliberately have one track. We have two tracks, but one of the tracks is designed for first-time speakers. And the idea is that if you're nervous or you never really spoke before and you want to try to do it, we provide that vehicle for you, because that's what we do. We're all like, that's what Simply Cyber is about. It's like helping people. So anyways, I just want to let everyone know, because when I've spoke a lot too, but Phillip saying he spoke 100 times. It's like, oh my God, like, okay, that's good for you. But so I hope you have fun in Romania. I was actually on the slate for that. and then there was some logistical issues. I don't know if you've been dealing with them either, but
Yeah.
I'll be there next year. So like I
Cool.
committed. I told them yesterday. I was like, I can't now because I have client work, but I'll be there next year. So I don't know if you're going to go back next year, but we can properly high five
Yeah.
in Romania.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see each other before then.
I hope so. I mean, I'll be at Black Cat. I'll be at Deadwood.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll be at those. Love Deadwood, obviously. All right. I can't believe that was an hour, honestly. That was kind of insane. There was a couple more questions, like quick hitters. Simply Curly just want to know, what do you think's the best one to go to for a first timer breaking in the industry? Any particular conference?
Which is the best? B-sides are really some of the best.
Hmm.
Yeah, B-sides are pretty newbie friendly, but a lot of the, Wild West Hacking Fest is a good one too. But the B-sides, the nice thing about B-sides is usually there's one in your area. They're low cost to free because usually the promoters, if they're charging, it's just to cover their charges. They didn't get enough sponsors. But like our B-sides has been going on for 11 or 12 years now, and it's been free ever since then. If it ever gets to the point where they can't get enough sponsorship and the sponsorship doesn't cover all the expenses, then they'll charge. But those are pretty cheap and really good conferences for folks getting started out.
Yeah, and Simply Curly, B-sides, there's not just one like DEFCON. It's like regional, or not even regional. It's like there's tons of them. So there's probably one close to you. Look up just B-sides and then kind of some areas like, if you live in Massachusetts, like B-side Boston, B-side Worcester, B-side Springfield or something, and they'll come up. Also, final question, Phillip, TG Artist asked earlier about PGBT or CPTS around entry level. I don't have any thoughts either on either of these, or if you don't want to specifically name certs, maybe you some thoughts on this.
The CPTS, I think, is the hack the box. I would choose that one. The PJPT is still good. I'm not really sure how well INE is keeping up with that content, but the CPTS you're going to get a lot of hands on because hack the box environment. And I've looked through some of their stuff and reviewed the content for that, and I really think that's a really good track.
Yeah, and I think the PJPT, I believe, is TCMs. I think the EJPT is
okay.
the
Yeah,
INE.
that is. Yeah, I got me confused with INE. Yeah, PJPT should be good. I mean, anything I've heard of or saw of TCM is good.
No, there you go, TG Artist. All right, guys, we have been straight crushing it like a bunch of bosses. Taekwon Gong wants to know how he can be as good as Phillip. Just be the best Taekwon Gong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, be the best version of yourself.
Heck yeah. So guys, this hour flew by. I hope you got a lot of value. We've been talking with Phillip Wylie. He's just amazing practitioner, an amazing person. In general, he's doing a lot for the community. Wrote a book, Pentester BluePrint. I did pin that on the YouTube chat, and I will go back after the show ends and I'll put it as a comment and I'll pin it. So if you're watching on replay right now, you can check out that text that he's like spoken about and done a bunch of things with. You can grab it off Amazon. Phillip, any final thoughts for us or for anyone before we head on out?
No, one of the things I would like to share is just, a message I want to share with people, because this doesn't take a lot of effort. Is just be nice to people, be good to people. That can go a long ways. I mean, attitude is infectious. So you take someone that's got a really bad attitude, you're ever out somewhere, someone snaps at someone, is kind of a chain reaction. But if you ever notice you're out somewhere, you hold the door for someone, have you ever noticed how the person behind you is nicer than the next person coming along or holds the door for them? So just be a nice person, be nice. And just, we got so much negativity in this world. We just need more positivity and help be part of that.
Yeah, we definitely more good, less bad. Definitely something you can take it like to action tonight. Do something nice for someone tonight and just, start paying it forward, right?
Yep.
I love it. All right. Hey, on behalf of all of chat, by the way, I have chat like off screen on this side. So for the Brady McNultys, the Jason Eyestones, the Cheddar Bobs, the ABs, everybody, 8-Bit Oni and Thomas, right? I want to say genuinely thank you for spending time with us, Phillip. I know you're a very busy man up in Nova Scotia, and just giving us an hour of your time, really inspiring us and letting us all be a bit better individuals and more knowledgeable. Yep. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure to spend time with friends. So,
Thanks so much, dude. I can't wait until we see each other in person.
Same.
All right. That's going to do it, y'all. Thank you all so very much. This has been Simply Cyber Firesides with Phillip Wylie. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern time for the daily cyber threat brief and then the jaw-jacking panel. So if you got questions, you can get answers. And if you want to stay up to date on the current news, you'll get that tomorrow as well. I'm Jerry. He's Phillip. Until next time, y'all, stay secure.